And we begin with a Fox News alert. 1 hour from now, the Senate is scheduled to vote on the nomination of Ash Carter to be Secretary of Defense. His confirmation expected to be smooth sailing, but then the real challenges begin.
That's right. The new Pentagon chief will take over as the president asks Congress to authorize military force against ISIS. We're covering all the news happening now. World leaders reach a high-stakes deal to stop the bloodshed in eastern Ukraine. But as fighting rages on, will another ceasefire fall apart? Plus, heartbreaking testimony from the widow of famed Navy SEAL Chris Kyle, seated just feet away from the man accused of murdering the American sniper and his friend, as lawyers clash over the defendant's mental state. And the doomsday scenario. Scientists show us an alarming wake-up call. An up-close look at a nuclear explosion and its devastating impact. It's all happening now. A lot of news to get to, but we begin with big economic news here at home and new polls showing many Americans feel left behind in this economic recovery. Welcome to Happening Now, everybody. Hope you're having a great day. I'm Jenna Lee.
And I'm John Scott. Some brand new numbers just out showing unemployment claims rising last week to 304,000, higher than economists expected. But the underlying trend still shows an improving job market with the unemployment rate at 5.7%. And from jobs to your money, a new report shows consumer spending barely rose last month, with retail sales up slightly despite the lowest gas prices in years, which should give Americans more spending power. Here's how Wall Street is reacting. Stocks slightly higher today, up about 67 points right now. But as investors remain optimistic about an improving economy, many Americans say they are not seeing much impact in their own lives. According to new Fox News polls, 65% of Americans say we are still in a recession, with most saying they are just getting by in this economy. As far as President Obama's handling of the economy, 46% say they approve of his performance, 50% disapprove. As for congressional job performance, 21% approve, 72% disapprove. Let's bring in Chris Wallace, the anchor of Fox News Sunday. These economic numbers cannot be particularly joyful for the folks at the White House, but they always manage to spin the best out of them. What are they saying, Chris?
Well, look, in terms of the actual economic numbers, they've been pretty good. Obviously, the rise in jobless benefit claims is not a good sign. But over the last few months, you've seen the unemployment rate go down substantially. You've seen about 250,000 jobs created every month. Labor force participation, obviously not good. That's low by historic standards. But you've got this fact, and both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats understand it, that an awful lot of people don't feel this recovery and a strengthening recovery that's underway. When you've got 65% of the country saying they think we're still in a recession, and technically we haven't been in a recession for years, that's just an indication. And you see it on both the president, who talks about building from the middle class out and helping the working class. You see Republicans talking more and more about income inequality. So the macroeconomic number is pretty good. But on a micro sense, the individual sense, not so good, and people certainly aren't feeling it.
Perception is reality, and when asked how people are feeling about their personal financial situation, 49% of Americans say they are just able to pay their bills. 31% say they're getting ahead, and another 18% say they are falling behind. Relating to that, I mean, it was 17% saying they are falling behind back in 2009. That number has actually ticked up slightly over the last 6 years. Pretty unbelievable, you know, this far into a quote-unquote recovery.
Well, and let's look at the big number, the 49% who say that they are working paycheck to paycheck. For any of us, and I have been in that situation, it's no fun. You know, it's sort of the lottery that we all go through, where you get the bills on your desk and you think, well, I can pay these, but I'm not going to be able to pay that one, and maybe the due date for that isn't for another week or so. So again, as I say, you know, you look at the Dow Jones, it's 17,900. It's almost a historic high, close to 18,000. But for people in terms of their daily life and their paycheck and the bills they have to pay, a lot of them aren't feeling it. And I think that's going to be one of the key issues as we get into 2015 and 16 in the presidential election is which side, because both sides are identifying this as a problem, but which side is going to have a more plausible program to try to deal with that, to try to help the middle class and the working class, and to persuade them that they've got an answer as to what's going to happen. Obviously, Democrats talking about more government programs, more spending, more tax credits, things like that, and Republicans, to a large degree, saying we got to get government out of the way and let the free market system, the capitalist system, provide more jobs. That's the best welfare program in the world, is a job.
Right. I know you'll be talking about that this weekend on Fox News Sunday with a very special guest. We'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the passing of Bob Simon, the legendary CBS correspondent.
Oh, this is so sad. You know, I got to say, I knew him a little bit. My father, of course, worked with him for years on 60 Minutes, and I've thought of my father a lot today because he would be devastated. He loved Bob Simon. He thought Bob Simon was one of the best reporters, one of the most fearless reporters, one of the most graceful writers in the business. And the bitter irony that this guy who went to every hot spot in the world, who was taken prisoner by the Iraqi army during the beginning of the first Gulf War and was held prisoner for 40 days, that he should end up dying not in one of these trouble spots around the world, but in the back of a car on the West Side Highway of New York on a Wednesday evening, is just tragic.
Chris Wallace from Fox News Sunday. Chris, thank you. We're going to see you on the show this weekend. Chris will have an exclusive interview with House Speaker John Boehner. You'll definitely want to hear what the Speaker has to say on the battles in Congress and with the White House. Chris also has an exclusive interview with Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore, addressing the same-sex marriage split that is roiling Alabama right now. You can watch it here on Fox News Channel at 2 and 6 p.m. Eastern, and also on your local Fox station. Check those local listings.